Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA Front Office Show. It's trade deadline eve. You know what that means.
Front office Wednesday, trade deadline -1. I don't know. Let's have some fun. Let's go.
it's the NBA trade deadline. Let's go. In fact, Keith, we are, 24 hours and like 38 minutes till the deadline?
Yeah, good
Oh,
math
boy.
you there on the fly. Well done, my friend.
Look at that. Look at that. I can math sometimes. All right, everybody. We've got a lot of stuff to get into here, a lot of different topics. And I guess, Keith, we should just start off the top. You know, I know that Mark Stein just dropped a new piece on the Kevin Durant situation. Sounded like Kevin Durant has some reservations about going back to the Golden State Warriors in a trade and would prefer to stay with the Suns. Doesn't mean he won't get traded. But should KD be a little bit concerned about a second stint with the Warriors?
Yeah, I mean, I get it, right? It didn't end great there for him. It never felt like he was fully happy being in Golden State with the Warriors. It felt like, you recognize the chance for that. And I think a lot of that came with all the criticism he took for going there in the first place and everything like that. So, yeah, I get why that's a place maybe he's not super excited about. Let's redo that. I will say this. Nobody says, though, that they did say he'd prefer not to be traded, but nobody said he's like upset about going anywhere else.
Yeah.
So, maybe it just is. He just doesn't really want to go back to Golden State. So we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. So it could just be Golden State. But there's a lot of different ways that this can still go. But I will tell you this, Keith, the one thing that I do know, the best thing out of all of this.
Fire.
The Kevin Cannon is back. Let's
go. I love the Kevin Cannon. Kevin Cannon's up there, man. They're all good.
It's an
Kevin
all-time.
Cannon's up there. That's a good one. Especially, I love the Home Alone Kevin at the end. That's my favorite part of the Kevin Cannon. So
that was a last-minute addition to it. I had to find that. Oh, classic scene. All right, let's go here. Senpai, how much do teams actually have to be under the first apron to sign buyout players? Warriors, for example, right now they don't have enough space for, say, Bruce Brown, right?
Yeah, they do not. So here's the rules for buyouts. If you are at or over the first apron, which then means if you're over the second apron, obviously you're over the first apron, you cannot sign a buyout player that makes more than the equivalent of the non-taxpayer mid-level on his previous contract. So let's use Bruce Brown as an example. Makes $23 million. They would not be able to sign him non-taxpayer mid-levels about 12.8 this season. So if you are under that, you can sign anybody, no restrictions. But if, let's say, the Warriors were under enough to sign Bruce Brown and they signed him, they would then trigger a hard cap at the first apron.
Mm-hmm.
They're already hard capped at the first apron, so that's not a super perfect example, but anybody who does that, if it was, I don't know, a team, if the Detroit Pistons did it, who are a mile under, they still have cap space, and we're going to get into some stuff with them. It's, we'll see. But that's where those apron rules come into effect.
Right. So if you're $50,000 under the first apron, you can't go. You have the ability to go sign players, but you can't really, because if you did, it would trigger a hard cap at the first apron. You'd be in violation of that by signing the player. So you do need some wiggle room there. All right, let's get into some of the news for today. Khris Middleton dealt for Kyle Kuzma. Now, this I thought was a fascinating trade for a couple things, but I think the biggest thing that a lot of people who were ready to say, what are the Bucks doing? Kyle Kuzma hasn't had a good season, all that kind of stuff. The Bucks also dropped below the second tier apron, which is a critical piece to this, and this opens them up to future moves after this one.
Yeah, that's it. We're going to say this a lot today and tomorrow. This trade's not complete yet, so there's always the chance this expands into something bigger. Mm-hmm. When I say that doesn't mean like it's going to be, oh my God, KD's involved or Jimmy Butler. It just could be some other thing gets added in that is, moves. Like, for example, Khris Middleton, or excuse me, the Bucks in this Khris Middleton trade, they may not want Patrick Baldwin coming back because they may want even more clearance under the aprons. So they may say, let's move him out to another team, and that's how you could expand this trade. So, but you're absolutely right. They're now under the second apron. They have a lot more flexibility freed up to be able to do other stuff. Crucially, too, this now, if they had finished over the second apron, their 2032 pick gets frozen. Because remember, that's the new rule that comes in after this season.
Oh, that's right.
It would have got frozen. So now they're in place for that not to happen either, as well, as long as they stay under. So, yeah, we're going to see kind of how this all comes together here for Milwaukee. I don't know that they're necessarily done, but even if this is it, this is all they did. Kyle Kuzma and Khris Middleton are probably roughly equivalent players, I think, at this point. Middleton has more of an injury history. Kuzma's been really bad this year.
Yeah.
So that's a challenge with him. But I think we're just in a spot where the Bucks knew they had to do something, right? They had to make some kind of move happen, free up flexibility and like that. And I think that's kind of where they're at.
Yeah, they free up flexibility. They get a younger player. It cost them AJ Johnson. The Wizards get a look at a first round pick just in this past June's draft. And there you go. There you have it. Now, there is word that it sounds like the Wizards, while they may eventually flip Khris Middleton, they're not going to do it right now. And I'm sure Middleton himself probably not thrilled about that. He's stuck on the Wizards for the remainder of this season. How much is he even really going to play? Probably not much. I would still imagine he's picking up that player option because nobody's going to give him $33 million player option next season. But he's potentially an expiring contract next summer that could be on the move with the Wizards. So just something to keep in mind when we get into June and July.
And I'm glad you said that too, Trevor, because a lot of people are like, well, maybe Washington will just buy him out. They're not going to buy him out with a $30+ million player option for next season because they're not going to eat $30 million and $30 million. They'd rather have him not even play, just bench him for the rest of this year, then have him as a $34 million, I think that's what it is for next year, expiring contract, as you said, to use in trade down the line. So that is where, that becomes really important on that note. With that is they can do that. So I think that is, something to kind of just keep in mind a little bit here with the Bucks, where with the Wizards, they're probably not going to buy out Khris Middleton. I think, we'll see him there. I also don't necessarily buy the whole, he gets to play with Malcolm Brogdon again. If Malcolm Brogdon might not be on the team in another, never mind, another 24 hours. So
I don't buy that either.
Yeah. I mean, if they're both there, fine. I guess they can, relive their glory days from their Milwaukee time together, but I'm not sure that's going to be how that goes down.
This question says, I heard you guys mention the Lakers are hard capped at the second apron because they aggregated during the last trade, but didn't they also aggregate with D'Lo and Lewis? Wasn't it triggered before? Unless they split it up, and I don't think they can because I believe Shake Milton makes more than Max Lewis off the top of my head, so they wouldn't have been able to split it into individual trades. So yes, they would have already been.
No, they weren't actually.
Why? Because of minimum?
So what happened in that trade was, remember, they took back less money in the trade. So how they were able to work it was as individual trades. So that's how they got there.
But if this was Lewis for Shake Milton was making more than Lewis,
which would have hard capped them there. So what they did was it was Russell for if I would have to double check, but it was Russell for Finney Smith and Milton. Then Lewis went technically for nothing. This is a great educational moment, though. You can break up a trade on either side,
whichever
what is most beneficial for each team. With that, so that's that's why I think it wasn't.
That's how they did it.
That's why they didn't trigger that hard cap, because Lewis didn't have to be aggregated.
Right. I was thinking they would split it up 1-to-1, but if you didn't have to be going to the Bucks, you could just send them over, and there you go. That makes sense.
Yep.
Okay. I mean, it doesn't matter. They're not, regardless, they were not going to cross the second tier apron.
Correct.
No matter what. By the way, we had another trade that just went down a few moments ago. Daniel Tice getting traded. Basically, the Pelicans are dropping below the luxury tax, and that was the goal of that. He went to OKC. Plus, the Pelicans think they gave up some second round capital in order to make that happen.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. That is, that's the Sam Presti special, right? Is get me a draft pick here at the at the trade deadline. So I'll if you already have your screen up, do you want to find my tweet on it? It's I think the
Yes.
last tweet on my
Yep.
thing, just because it's we're having a little bit of fun here this afternoon. So but yeah, this is the Pelicans were. So here's a great question from Brett Selwood in the chat. Won't the Pels still need to sign a 14th player? Won't that put them back over the luxury tax? They have enough clearance to sign a player to a prorated minimum and not go back over the tax. So yes, they do need to sign a 14th player, but they've got the clearance to do that. Barring another move, which let's not rule that out with the Pelicans, they may do that. They're going to go back into or they're going to very likely convert or sign Brandon Boston Jr. To a standard contract, and then but that'll prorate and be less than the tax room they have under the tax. They should be about 1.4 million under the tax with that. Scroll down on my timeline because I don't want to reshare Shams. It's my little Sam Presti. Keep going. There we go.
Oh, I didn't see this one.
Yeah. So there's my favorite Sam Presti meme.
There it is. I like it.
That I created several years ago when the Thunder were in the point draft pick collection mode, and I like to do it. So it's as some call it, it's the Sam Presti NBA money laundering scheme.
There it is
to run. But yeah, I mean they got a 2031 some form of pick out of this for eating a deal. I'm not going to be convinced Daniel Tice makes it all the way to the end of the season with the Thunder. He may. They could use another big man, but the Thunder still want to have a spot for AJ Mitchell to put him on a long-term contract. So we'll kind of see how this goes there.
All right. Let's get to our next dude. Caleb Martin for Quentin Grimes. What did you think about that trade that went down?
Yeah, interesting trade.
Interesting because the long-term salary. I think a lot of teams saw Caleb Martin's long-term salary as not a positive. The Mavs clearly do see it as a positive, though, to flip an expiring for him.
Yeah, 100%. So I think the Quentin Grimes became a little bit expendable in Dallas when they got Max Christie in the AD Luka swap. Max Christie played well for them last night in his debut game for the Mavericks.
4 from deep.
Yeah, it looked pretty solid defensively as well. So that's what they want him to be, right? They want him to be their new 3-and-D wing, right? Anybody guard anyone from 1 to 3s, and that's where it's at. He's a little bit younger than Grimes. Injury history is cleaner with Max Christie as well. They did not come to an agreement with Quentin Grimes on a extension last summer. So that means he's going to hit restricted free agency with the way Grimes has played in the past, but more importantly, the way he's played this year. He's in what I call MLE plus level territory, which is you get in there and you are going to get probably at least the MLE and maybe up to like 15 million, maybe a little bit more than that. And I think if you're Dallas, it is, do we need to do that when we now have Caleb Martin? We have Najee Marshall, now we have Caleb Martin in the trade, but we had Max Christie. We have Najee Marshall. There's a lot of overlapping going on there. Are we going to give him that kind of money? So you swap it out. And now effectively you get Caleb Martin and Max Christie next season for likely close to what you would have paid Quentin Grimes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably, my best read for why Dallas did this. So I don't necessarily love the trade for their side because I like Quentin Grimes quite a bit.
He's been good.
Yeah, Philly, I really like it. If Philly, he's young enough to fit if Philly starts pivoting and moving guys. And it's like, we're going to kind of punt this season and reset. But he's also good enough if they're like, let's really make a run moving forward here. I like Quentin Grimes quite a bit. So I think he's a nice fit with Tyrese Maxey and Jared McCain in that Sixers backcourt. I think he'll be a nice player for them. And they get to control his next contract a little because he's a restricted free agent.
Right. So they've got that advantage as well. With Grimes. Now, Philly, do you think they're done making moves, or do we see Philly actually sell here at the deadline? I know a lot of teams interested in Gershon Yabusele. Yeah. Is that something that we see happen?
I think there's a chance. I think Philly's tough spot is they have to really decide is trading Gershon Yabusele for, it's not going to be an overwhelming return, but probably like a couple seconds. Is that better than having him the rest of the year to aid us as we try to make a push towards the playoffs? And if they're like, hey, if we make the playoffs, we'll figure it out without Yabusele, then yeah, you should move him along. If it's like, no, we think we have a chance to actually make real noise in the postseason because we think Embiid back, get Paul George back, we can really do something. Well, yeah, then you probably keep him and just move forward that way.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? The Sixers, they just may wind up just making it into the play-in. You look at, obviously they've won some, they're 5-5 in their last 10. They did have a nice little run there, but Chicago, with the moves they're making, they're probably going to start dropping down further. So I think the Sixers still do have a good shot at making the play-in right now, despite how horrendous their season has been.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the teams behind them are no threat.
No.
Toronto was frisky for a little bit there, but I don't think they were ever a real serious threat to catch Philly. So, yeah, and if you're Philly, you're looking at it, and your thought process, honestly, is, all right, even if we think the highest we can reasonably get to is 9, are they really that terrified of going in, if healthy, to play Miami or Orlando or Detroit in the second playing game to try to get in? Probably not. And then they're probably also, in addition, looking at it and saying, we can beat Cleveland if we've got our guys. Like, why can't we go in there and beat Cleveland? So that's the thing with Philly. I think they're so sell, no, minor moves. Yeah, quite possibly.
All right, let's go here. Did you notice Claxton and Luka are both 25 years old? I know there's been a lot of talk about Nick Claxton maybe being a target. Rob Pelinka, the type of center he was envisioning going and getting, sounded like he was describing a Nick Claxton-esque player. I don't think the Nets it would be like the Cam Johnson situation where the Nets don't feel like they have to move him, aren't in a hurry, but if they got a great offer, maybe they'd look at it. That's kind of where they're at.
Yep. Yeah. Hey, yeah, I'm with you on that. Like, you could, do a move like that. I think the move that maybe makes a little more sense if you're going that direction would be something like Clint Capella, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's, probably comes maybe even a little cheaper if you're going that direction, more of a, rebounder defense type at the center position. So, yeah, I don't buy when some of the reporting that came out of like the Lakers think they might just have to run with what they have. I don't really buy that. I think they are going to, I know they're still trying. Yeah. I don't know that it's going to be though, well, here goes out the 2031 pick. Cause I don't know that player type of player is going to be on the board, but you can still do something without having to go that drastic.
Right.
In trade.
Right. Okay. KJ Martin to the Pistons now eventually, because they may want to order this a little bit differently here. So what's going on with KJ Martin and the Pistons here?
Yeah, so this is an agreed to trade. So that tells me they're definitely moving KJ Martin to the Pistons. But the Pistons, as we've talked about, oodles of times here on the show, have $14 million in cap space. They trade for KJ Martin right now. That eats into their cap space. And people got all up in arms because they're like, they can bring him in via the room exception. Once you're on the books, you're on the books. Doesn't matter what way you were brought in, you're on the books. So what would happen with this is if they brought him in via the room exception, now you've used the room exception and you've eaten up $8 million in cap space. So what's going to happen here is, my guess is Detroit is working right now to, what else can we do with our $14 million?
Yep.
Philly's probably working on their side. And at some point there's going to be, and it may be 2:30 tomorrow afternoon, where it is, all right, we can just do this trade because there's nothing else that's holding either of us up from doing this. Or it might be Philly's like, hey, we need to do it now because we need the flexibility to do something else. But for Detroit, you're looking at it and saying, no, we want to use the $14 million or at least a chunk of it first. Then we can go get KJ Martin. And if nothing else like materializes, then we'll just do KJ Martin and we'll figure it out from there. And we'll have, $6 million left to use in the buyout market and outbid teams and all kinds of other stuff. So, yeah. So that's kind of where we're at with the KJ Martin thing. So he'll end up with the Pistons. Just don't be surprised if the Pistons make another move or two before KJ Martin lands there.
And we're now, we're 24 hours away from the deadline. It's not like this is going to hang out there forever. It'll get done before the deadline tomorrow.
This is if and I know we get a decent chunk of Pistons fans come in and watch the show. This is similar to what happened with Simone Fontecchio in the summertime when they still had like $20 million in cap space. And it was, what are they going to do with him? Are they going to sign him via the room exception because his contract would have fit? Are they going that way? And it really was, in the end, it was, no, we're just going to sign him. We'll use $8 million up in cap space. That's kind of what you're deciding on here. It's just now you just have a much limit here. A lot of people are asking, can KJ Martin be put into a bigger trade? He could be, but you can't use KJ Martin plus the cap space in a trade. That's not a thing you can do. Because again, once he's acquired, he'll be on the books and that uses it up and you would not be able to send him out. So that's the thing with that as well. Now, if people are wondering, you guys at Spot Track, and I know Trevor hates this, but it's like, you guys move these guys so fast. Why is KJ Martin not moved to the 76ers?
Because it hasn't happened.
It hasn't happened, but it's also screwing up the trade machine. If we do it, then the Pistons lose their $14 million in cap space. So we don't know what method he'd be brought in. So we want you guys in the trade machine to have the flexibility to use that $14 million. So we'll let him kind of, hang out there on the Sixers for a little bit, and then we'll get down there right when it actually gets done.
All right. The Celtics moving Jaden Springer to the Rockets. Keith, what's that all about? The Celtics clearing a little bit of money here.
Yeah, a little bit. $15 million in actual tax money got moved out in this one. Jaden Springer only makes roughly $4 million, but Boston they're at about a 4-time multiplier right now for the tax, because that's how far deep into it they are. So they're going to move Jaden Springer into the Rockets. One of my favorite terms, nothing something, trademark Eric Pincus, will come back to Boston, because the Rockets are the one doing a favor. They get a pick from Boston in this. Some Celtics fans are a little worked up about, like, hey, this is not cool. Jaden Springer is actually playing. He's playing, really good defense for us. This was always going to be a thing, though. If they couldn't turn his contract into kicking the can down the road like another $4 million player who had a year going into next year, they were always going to move him along with that. And then what happens there is, now he goes, they open up another roster spot. They'll have to sign somebody, but even on a prorated minimum, you're still going to, even as you net it all out, even if they fill out both roster spots they have, you're still going to net out probably $7-8 million in savings.
Yeah. So, I mean, well worth it to do this. Well worth it. I mean, and just like, so when you add in the tax savings, this is where this matters a lot. And then when we look at, it's in a different way, but we look at like the Pelicans trade to move Daniel Tice. Well, not only are you dropping, it's not as you look at it, you go, oh, they saved $2 million. No, they also, not only do they not pay the tax, but now they get the tax distribution as well. So it's actually probably like a $18-20 million swing. If we're looking at it. So it's well worth doing it. The Celtics saving $15 million. Like, that's a lot of money. I know teams make a lot of money and all that, and people say, well, who cares? But that's a lot of money to potentially save still for an NBA team. So some of these moves, maybe it's not the most fun thing, but it matters for these businesses to be able to save that kind of money to make these trades.
100%. We are in a spot where if you're within a small move to get yourself out of the tax, or like the Bucks, get out of the second apron and avoid the frozen picks, you owe it to yourself to do that. You do not want to put yourself in a position just because you're going to eat some money. And I get it. People are like, oh, cool, billionaire owner saves money. Right. You don't get to be a billionaire by throwing money away generally, right? Like, it's, that's where it goes. At least that's what I hear. I don't know. I'll let you guys know when I'm there. If a few more of you subscribe to the channel, I'll let you know when I'm a billionaire, how we get there.
That's all we need. Just a few more.
Just a few more. Maybe more.
Brandon says Christian Wood, Cam Reddish, second-round pick for Day'Ron Sharpe. And Kleba and a first-round pick for Jonas. I would not be interested in giving up a first-round pick for Jonas Valanciunas.
No, absolutely not.
Would definitely not do that.
You shouldn't have to. Either.
But what do you think about the package, Day'Ron Sharpe for a second-rounder?
Yeah, that's probably okay. I think that's probably all right. If I was the Nets, I think though I'd have to look at it. You might run into issues there with you might hard cap yourself at the first apron there. Sending that out, I don't know. I'd have to look at the actual math. I don't know how much Day'Ron Sharpe makes off the top of my
head. Day'Ron Sharpe, he's at just under $4 million.
Okay, yeah. So no, you'd be okay. So yeah. I mean, sure, why not? I guess, right? Like, that's fine. The Kleba in first round for Jonas. I mean, and it's Kleber doesn't make enough money that you even need to pay a first rounder get off his contract. That's going too far.
It says, or buy a few second round picks and use 2 in each of the trades instead of the first round pick. Well, I mean, you have to have something to buy them with, but sure.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And the Lakers are so close to the second apron. They've got to be very careful at they using cash. Well, they're already now hard capped at the second apron, but I don't even know where they're fixed with cash.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head. But yeah, Sharp. I mean, I don't mind those guys. I just be careful on your value there.
Any truth to Dayron, just to close the gap here, the loop here. Dayron Sharp to LA, rumors wouldn't mind him. Are there any wings LA can get? I don't trust Vando to stay healthy. I know they are very focused on trying to find a big. I don't know how interested they are in wings right now. They do have a pretty good wing rotation currently. Dayron Sharp is a guy that I thought they would have tried to get him in the Dorian Finney-Smith trade. Reportedly, they were asking for a little bit more than what the Lakers wanted to kick in, but it wouldn't surprise me if they go back. I know there's interest. Is there enough to get something done? He's probably not their first option because he's not really a starting quality center. He'd be more of a backup kind of guy, but he's a great rebounder. Fouls too much, but a great rebounder. Big physical guy, 265 pounds. So he's a big dude.
Actually pass a little bit too.
Yeah.
Then it's when a team is as bad as the Nets are, you have to look at things for very like you're looking for snippets of stuff, and he's showing a little bit of passing chops.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he'd be an interesting one, and maybe an option that you can get without having to, the Lakers. I think they don't want to pull apart too much their team right now, given all the changes they've already made. So maybe something like this as like a stopgap. You get another big, and then we get to the summer, then maybe they reevaluate and figure out what do they want to do long term at the position.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, I think that's where like a guy on a 1-year deal comes into play, because then you're just let's figure it out for the rest of this year, and then we'll figure it out long term. That's why I think if you could get their matching salary wise, a guy like Capella would make sense.
Yeah. Yep. Pete said,
"Hey, that's my boy. That's my best friend in the world."
There he is, but he says he's home from school puking his brains out.
Yeah, he's a teacher, so he's probably got the flu.
Well, I'll tell you that. Like, you were just, when you're a teacher, you were just bombarded by germs every single day. Like, you could schedule, especially, Keith, the worst was always you go for summer vacation, and it's like you lose your immunity to those kid germs, and you go back. You just know as a teacher, the first 2 to 3 weeks of school, you're getting sick. You're going to get sick at some point because your body like loses that kid germ immunity. So hard to avoid it this time of year.
Yep, 100%. Everybody, if you're interested in a podcast that's all about mindset type stuff, check out my boy Pete's show, Schooling Struggle. He does an amazing job there. It's all about mindset and how you deal with struggles in life. Like he's incredible. He's this guy's story would blow people away. He's the best.
Well, Pete, we certainly hope you feel better.
We were roommates.
Pete's lying in case his principal is watching.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
he's just taking a day off.
He used to have a principal who was a big fan of us.
Really?
Back in the day. Yeah, he's not there anymore though. But yeah, he loved the show back in the day. So yeah, it's kind of funny. Guys, don't spam the chat. If you spam the chat, we're not going to answer it.
Nope.
That's like the number one rule here. Besides, be kind. We're just not going to answer.
Let's go here. Reeves to the Magic concepts. They need scoring. What are the Magic looking to do? They do need scoring. Yeah. Is there a move for them to make?
I mean, there is if they wanted to. So it's a couple pieces with the Magic. They are probably right up there with Boston as far as the least leaky organizations out there. Just nothing really gets out. We think
as
about
long as they're not taking a picture in front of a whiteboard anyway.
Well, that's not that.
That was
front
a long
office
time, right?
That was a while ago. Yes,
I know.
Under the current front office. And if you think about any move either one of those franchises has made, you didn't hear about it till it was done. Right? It's there's very little rumor stuff that's in there, and usually when you hear things, it's from like another side is mentioning it there. I can also tell you too, the Magic have walked away from deals because the partners they were working with were starting to try to negotiate through the media and all that. All that said, they cannot shoot. They are literally shooting at levels we have not seen since like the 3-point shot was introduced into the league and teams took like 4 or 5 per game total, not each player, but total. They are so bad at shooting the ball. They need to do something. So yeah, there's a world where Austin Reeves makes a ton of sense to the Magic. I just don't know what they're going to actually do. The Magic have been in a spot where it has been, kind of for like a while now. Like, where are we at with this? Like, it's, where are we going to go? Yeah, look at this,
Dead last.
30.2% from three. Like, that is embarrassing levels of, poor shooting. So I don't know. It's just the Magic are just in a weird spot where they're right on the borderline of what did I criticize the Grizzlies for years? Being too precious with your own drafted and developed players.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you get way too high on those guys and you keep them too long until their value runs out. Zaire Williams with the Grizzlies. Grizzlies were so high on him. What'd they have to do? Salary dump him this year to the Brooklyn Nets just to create room to sign Luke Kennard and stay under the luxury tax. So you got to be extremely careful with hanging on for guys a little too long. People will throw out the Magic are trying to do this, trying to do that. Maybe they are, but I can tell you none of that's really coming from any credible source other than if it's a very general, the Magic are looking to upgrade their shooting and scoring. And if you didn't know that, yeah, no kidding. Thanks. Like, that's, the easiest thing. So Austin Reeves makes sense. I just don't know what it would be going back to the Lakers. They have extra bigs. Can't be Wendell Carter Jr. He's not trade eligible, but they've got Goga Batadze. You've got some other guys that you could throw in there if you wanted to do it. There's a lot of ways they could make a trade construction work. And a guy like Reeves would make a lot of sense. Presumably, if he doesn't walk through the portal at the MCO airport where your shooting ability goes away and it's now, you can't shoot. So there it is.
You know who's, and I'm not suggesting this would be a Lakers Magic trade at all, but just want to give him some credit. Jonathan Isaac has every time I watch the Magic, like Jonathan Isaac is doing some stuff for that team. He's been really, really solid for this team this season. And, fingers crossed, hopefully he can stay healthy, but it's been great seeing him out there and seeing what he can give this team.
Yep. Yeah. He's really played well. He's been, over the, like injury stuff for the most part. They're still pretty careful with him. He's really at this point, if he feels anything, like you can't do that, with that. So, yeah.
Let's go. How do I feel about Jonas for Maxi Kleba and a second, just as a center, just to have a center on the team for the year? What do you think about that, Keith? I mean, salaries are fairly similar. The Wizards would have to eat a little bit of money. They get paid a second round pick for their trouble. They're both really 2-year contracts because Jonas's third year is totally non-guaranteed. What do you think about that concept?
I'd do that. I wouldn't even think twice about it. I would do that. And that's actually a deal the Lakers can do because they can retrade Maxi Kleba by himself. You just can't aggregate him with another salary going outwards, but you would need to here because he makes a little bit more than Jonas. So you actually clear yourself, like it's going to be $1 million or so in extra space there. So yeah, I would do that. Like,
and I think Jonas is not a great fit with the Lakers with what he provides, but he's a large human being, and they have a deficit of those right now.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, and he can rebound, can pass, can score a little still. Defensively, he's not going to do anything. But you get a guy like him to start your games, play the first 6 minutes of each half, and then you figure it out around that based off what you need.
Yeah, that's it. All right. Let's go here. Do the Lakers stand pat with that first, considering Luka will need a co-star in a year or two? Depends on what's available. I mean, I think if there's a move out there to get the guy that they think is going to be the long-term center with Luka, and long-term in today's NBA, we're talking like 3-4 years, that is the guy that fits everything, I would imagine they'd be willing to move off of that first-round pick. If not, they'll look to do something smaller and try to add a center another way. But yeah, it depends on what's available, and that will determine whether or not they're willing to move that pick. I think they'll be careful with it, though. That's what we've seen so far. They're going to be careful with it, and they're not going to move it just to move it.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, that's your last best asset that you have right now as structured. So you need to be careful. You can't just. That's why whatever that one was earlier was like, do you give up the first for Jonas? No, that's not enough of an upgrade. I would wait and just see who pops free that made less than the non-taxpayer at the 5 that I can just sign as a get-by guy.
Right.
instead versus throwing a guy in on that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you, I've been looking at the buyout market. I don't see a lot of bigs that I project would get bought out this year.
Yeah, there's probably not a lot. I'm going to have a piece that goes up on Spot Track tomorrow afternoon after the trade dust settles, where I'll list out all the kind of prime buyout guys, also rehashing the new buyout rules since this is the first time they're really in play. So
Mhm.
yeah, I'll have that out there. But yeah, it's fairly thin. I'll also say this: the number of guys that have ever been on the buyout market that have had a massive impact on teams going into meaningful games in the playoffs, it's extremely limited. Like we very rarely see those guys. There's as was put to me many years ago. There's a reason guys get bought out.
Yeah.
It's generally because they're more name than game.
For every Markieff Morris, there's 10 guys that just don't wind up doing anything on the team that they wind up signing with.
Yep.
Let's go this one. Kleba and a protected first for Davion and Ochai Agbaji. I think that really fixes what you need there. And then are the Raptors are they ready? Are the Raptors ready to move on there?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean, it would really saying it's like top 4 protected. Yeah, I'm sure they'd be like, okay, cool, 2031 pick and several years for a guy in Mitchell who may not be on the team and a decent 3-and-D wing. Yeah, I'd take that, but I don't think we'll see it go that way.
No. Do the Lakers have any non-guaranteed contracts they'd be able to dump after a Kleba 2-for-1 deal? No, they do not. They do not have any non-guaranteed.
Nobody does.
Contracts.
All contracts are fully guaranteed now.
Yeah, right. But they didn't have any, even going into the season.
Yeah.
They didn't have anybody that they could have, parted ways with.
Yeah, at this point, you could waive a minimum guy. Now their challenge is they are hard capped. They're hard capped.
They're 1.6 million, I think, below it.
Yeah, I think that sounds right. Yeah, 1.6 million. So that's enough. Like if the Lakers find out Christian Wood's out for the year, they're like, we just need the roster spot, they could waive him and go sign a guy to a prorated minimum that'll fit in under that second apron hard cap. But that's where you just, that's the kind of thing you're looking at there.
Keith, what do you think about that situation? Because Lakers fans have been talking about this a lot. Obviously, there's plenty of other bigger things going on, but Christian Wood, nothing. No word on it. It's been crickets on him for a while. It get to the point where it's getting a little bit weird from an outside perspective. Have you? What do you think when things like this start popping up?
Yeah, that tells me the injury is just more serious than what we thought. Or the other option is the team has no thought of him being a part of things moving forward. Not necessarily for any kind of bad or evil, ominous way. It's just he's just not a part of things. And that's where if it turns into, because he's what, like 30 or $33 million, I think, of expiring salary. If he's tossing a deal to go get somebody, then that makes a lot more sense, where it's like, yeah, that could be how it goes. So no, but I don't know. I've literally heard nothing.
That's the thing. It's the silence. The silence is deafening.
Yeah. The very minor updates the team has given have been it.
Keith, we just want to note, we are now 24 hours away from the NBA trade deadline. 24 hours to go. I don't want to be sedated. I need to be very much awake and alert.
Love it.
And ready for these next 24 hours. The clock is ticking.
No, I love it. Yeah, man, it's gonna be great.
By the way, we will be live tomorrow while I'm thinking of it. We will be live tomorrow ahead of the trade deadline. We usually go live like an hour before the deadline or so, something like that. And then
if it's
we'll
like last year, that was super crazy. We went live, I think, at 1:00 or like 12:30. We both basically stuffed in some lunch and then jumped on. And then we're live, and we'll be live for probably an hour. So pretty much when you have the idea of someone will tweet out, that's probably going to, my guess is just the way this will work. It'll either be Shams or Bobby Marks. It used to be Woj would do it. One of the two of them will tweet out there. There's no more, like, all the deals are in. Like, we've now reported on everything with that. So once we kind of get that, then we know, all right, we've kind of covered off on everything. But yeah, I hope it's like it was, the last couple of years, and things get a little crazy and can use the breaking news drop. I'll also say I'm not going to be shocked at all if we're back here live a little bit later tonight, breaking down, moves. Because there's a lot going on. I was just while we were doing this, I was kind of reading through Mark Stein and Jake Fisher's latest. There's a lot of stuff kind of going on with that. So there, but yeah. In Grebuse, you asked really good questions in the chat, but you put them in there like 700 times. So I'm not going to answer them. Like, sorry, my guy.
And
Like,
guys, might as well change the name of this to front office Lakers pod. Well, then ask non-Lakers questions.
yeah,
folks. We're just
Instead of
responding to the
complaining
questions
about
we're
it,
getting
ask
asked.
other questions. Yeah, ask other questions, and we'll get into it. Yeah, like there's a lot of general Laker questions that we didn't get into because we won't. There's a couple people asked them. It's probably Celtics people about Lonnie Walker. Like, does this open up a spot for Lonnie Walker to come back to Boston? In theory, yes. There's two pieces. We don't know that he is going to take his NBA out in Lithuania. I will also say he has not played well in the EuroLeague this year. He's shot extremely poorly in the EuroLeague games, which are the higher level games. He's every other NBA team's kind of given up on him already anyway. Like, he didn't. That's why he's in Lithuania. So I don't think we're going to see him come back to the NBA. I think that's not where that'll be. Is OKC going to trade for KD? I don't think so. That would be kind of fun if they did, kind of off the top rope there with that one. This is a good one. Should the Cavaliers make a trade? Yeah, and they're trying. They are actively shopping Karis LeVert's expiring contract to try to get something. They want another playable wing. Yeah, there's a rumor that they were interested in DeAndre Hunter. I think the challenge there is the Hawks want draft capital, and the Cavs don't have it to offer. So, and LeVert's not going to be enough to get them Hunter. So, and the other problem is I don't know that Jalen Tyson, who I actually really like. I don't know that he's enough if you put him and LeVert together to get DeAndre Hunter, who's played really, really well for Atlanta. Atlanta's also been mentioned as potentially being a buyer and trying to get things back on track.
They're a weird team, aren't they, on this year's market, where they could kind of go either direction.
Yep. Yeah, they're kind of like the non-dramatic version of Philadelphia a little bit, where Philly's what are they going to do? And Atlanta's in the same boat, but not as dramatic. So yeah, it's there. We'll do a couple others here. Do you think the Bulls trade Vooch or Kobe? Yeah, I think there's a good chance. I'll say this. I was extremely critical of the Bulls' return in the Kings first trade. And I don't love the stuff that came out of they might not trade Lonzo Ball. They might actually re-sign him. Why? What are we doing? Why? I'd rather see Lonzo on a contender where he can play a role and actually help a team. Same with Vooch. Same with pretty much everybody on that team now, outside of their youngest players. So, you should be moving some guys here.
The reporting out there about even if he doesn't get traded, they're not going to buy Lonzo out. I'm said every team ever in the history of the NBA once a rumor popped up that a player might get bought out.
Now, the one difference is, I do think, let me rephrase. I know from talking to agents, some players, if they're over the non-tax player MLE, aren't as interested in a buyout because then they can't just sign with whoever, right? And that's a little bit of a challenge. I'll just use Boston as an example. Title contender, obviously, open roster spot. That's the exact kind of place where a guy before would have said, I'll sign on in ring chase. I'll go there for the rest of the year and, try to be, help them over the top if I need. And the challenge with that is now they couldn't do that. Lonzo Ball couldn't go there because he makes too much money on his current contract. So that's a little bit of the challenge with that one. Somebody said Brogdon. Malcolm Brogdon's back. He's back now. He's been playing, so he's back in the fold. But yeah, Bulls are. Let's see. Right? They should still be super active. Yeah, you can't go this far down the line and then not do it. Somebody just asked about Lonnie Walker. We just talked about him.
Did you see Montes Buzelis's game last night?
Yeah, he's really figuring it out now.
He was so good. I think he went 10 for 10.
Yeah.
Dude, he didn't miss.
Play where he came down the court and he basically, was that game or was that the net? the Mavericks game. I think it might have been against the Mavericks, but basically the defender jumped at him and he like did a half spin, saw the extra defender coming and spun back the other way for a bucket. And it was so like, oh, he
Fluid.
saw it. Like he saw it. Like if you guys read the basketball bulletin, when I do my clips, those are the things I get super excited about. Like young player, like saw that move, right? Like, and I get all fired up about that stuff because it's so cool. Like I love that. So
It looks like there's a lot of this getting aggregated right now, but Shams Charania apparently said Kevin Durant does not want to join the Warriors, which is what we talked about off the top. And Mark Stein had kind of mentioned that was not the way this was wanting to go. But so something we already discussed. But KD doesn't want to go to the Warriors, so maybe the Warriors then. Do the Warriors re-engage on Jimmy Butler? Do they turn to Nikola Vucevic? Where do they go
mentioned
here? Brandon Ingram. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, they're trying. I don't think the Warriors are just gonna sit it out over the next 23 hours and 52 minutes. But
I still don't understand, why would the Suns want to turn Kevin Durant into Jimmy Butler? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me. But Luka, here it is. It's Luka freaking Doncic from me a couple nights ago. He's on the Lakers now. That doesn't really make sense either if we go back 4 days ago. And but I'm not it all made. I said it to somebody this morning. None of this makes sense, and that probably means it's all very realistic now. So I don't even know anymore with some of this stuff.
Keith, I went over to I made the mistake of going to the Real GM trade board last night. I'm just like, I wonder what people are talking about. And every trade that came up that involved the Lakers, the first response was always like, oh, what would the Lakers have to give up to get Nick Claxton? Probably just a second round pick and what was it? And Jackson Hayes based on the way the Luka trade went or something like that. I'm like, okay, we're not going to have any real analysis on any Lakers trades anymore.
No, well, and it's all, people are trending deep into conspiracy theories and all kinds of other.
Have you seen that stuff?
Nonsense.
Like, it's been a lot of like, oh, they want to we talked about it, but they're putting the major league plot into play and saying they're trying to move the team to Vegas and all that.
That's a great point. Let's address that real quick. The NBA wants a team in Las Vegas to expand. Dallas is one of the biggest markets in the NBA.
They would not do that.
For some reason, us, and I include me in it, the coastal elites seem to think, well, it's just this little place in Texas. It's one of the biggest markets in the entire league. Like, it's not that far off of the non-New York, LA, Chicago group. Like, it's like those three are, well, it's really New York, LA, then a dip, then Chicago, as far as market size goes. It's not. Dallas is then in that next grouping after those three with, and some of them they're ahead of if you count it one way. Some of them it's the other way. It's a top like 5 to 7 markets. So yeah, it's not a like that is like the most galaxy brain thinking stuff. That's when I gotta say, guys, like turn off the computer and go outside for a little while. As the kids say, touch grass, go get some fresh air. Like, with that. So
people are mad and they're trying to come up with a reason why, why that's happening. Oh, now Shams is tweeting.
Yeah, he's tweet out the clip from NBA.
The clip from the There's no interest in going back.
Yeah, but it's Doug, you're off, man. 25 hours to go. You're off by a couple hours, my friend.
Yeah.
We're down to like just under 24 hours to go.
Yep.
So
we're at
3 p.m.
23
Eastern.
Hours. And change.
Doug's in the central time zone.
That could be
there. So, that's just the NBA would just they'd just expand. They're not gonna move the Mavericks. The other thing is too, to relocate a team, the other owners have to approve relocation. They wouldn't do it because that would take. Maybe they would because then Dallas would just get it. Maybe Mark Cuban would be like, "All right, I'm buying an expansion team then," but. I shouldn't even have said that because now I'm entertaining the stupidity of the NBA.
And
just not going to happen.
So one of the things to keep in mind, the NBA got a lot of negative publicity when Seattle moved to OKC.
Yeah,
they don't want to do that. Why? Because you're taking a team away from somebody. They don't want to do that.
When Sacramento almost moved, right? They fought so hard to get an owner in there that would keep them there.
Yeah, they don't want to take a team away from City. That's negative. But if you're adding a team, an expansion team to Las Vegas, it's all positive. It's yay, Vegas gets a team and all that. If it's Vegas gets a team at the expense of Dallas, forget market size and all that, that's the type of story the NBA doesn't want out there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they definitely do not want that. With that, yeah, we saw Sham's tweet that KD doesn't want to go there. We already addressed Lonnie Walker earlier in the show. I'm just scrolling through this.
We got a few super chats we can get into here.
Yeah, let's do it.
If you want to start firing off one of these, we can go kind of rapid fire here.
Yeah.
All right. So
somebody asked KD to the Mavs. I think that was a pre us starting, like that question loaded in. I mean, again, Luke is a Laker, so I shouldn't say no way. They would have to severely gut their depth to make that happen. Here's what was funny, though. Did you see the Kyrie quote?
No.
From yesterday? They asked him about playing with AD, like finally getting to play with AD. And he said, yeah, there was a time when me, AD, KD wanted to team up with JT in Boston and like all be Celtics together. And he goes, that was what we were talking about. And then it, basically didn't come down that way and, all that stuff. So he was, saying, now it's not lost on me. They play in Boston tomorrow. So, I don't, we'll see with that. But yeah, it was that was just kind of funny. And it's funny because then a bunch of Celtics fans are like, yeah. And then instead you were like, nah, let's just all leave and leave
right.
But I keep having to tell Celtics fans, you won, you got a title. Like, it's okay. It's over. Like we don't need to still be so mad.
Oh, what? Fans hold a grudge? Never.
I know, right? Yeah,
that never is a thing.
I'm sure he's going to be embraced and showered with love tomorrow.
Absolutely.
When they play,
they'll be showered with something, but I don't think it's going to be love. It's going to be booze. But so Brian Windhorst. Brian Windhorst did say apparently on ESPN TV today that Kevin Durant is either going to stay with Phoenix or go to Miami. So we'll see if they can work something out with Jimmy Butler.
Why not?
And make that happen. If I'm Miami, I'd do that too. And say again, I don't get it.
Call it in.
The Suns.
Yeah. Little. You have to do a little bit of salary cap gymnastics. But I will say this. I mean, I've been saying this since this whole thing. There's a front office. You need to do some salary cap work to get it done. You want the Heat front office. Andy Ellsberg's he if he's not the best, he's second in the league with this kind of stuff.
All right, let's go. Is Larry Nance still available? Yeah, I mean the Hawks will make make moves here, but I don't know if they're going to be selling on Nance or not. Last thing we heard on Nance was that they were reluctant to trade him, but he hasn't been playing a ton for Atlanta, so I'd assume they would.
He got hurt too just when he was starting to play. He got hurt, then he came back. Now he's playing a little bit more because Capella is out with an injury, so we'll see with him. But yeah, Cleveland a second for Nance. I don't know if that actually works. I think Nance makes too much money for that.
I'll check it
because that would trigger a first apron hard cap in the Lakers.
He's at 11.2. I think you're right. 11.2 for Nance, and I believe Kleba is at 11 flat.
11 flat. Yep. So that one doesn't work, but that's not to say you can't get there another way. With that. Here's my one issue though. He's not a real center. Like he's more of a 4/5. He'd be like
a 4/5, but more 4 than 5.
And if he was your third big, sure. Right. Yeah. Then you feel pretty good, but he's not going to start at the 5 for you.
Rui Gabe, second round pick for Clint and Garrison Matthews. So you're clearing some salary there if you do that.
Yeah, you got to keep Austin Reeves then because you need him in there just as another ball handler. But I don't hate that. I don't know why the Hawks do it though. I would have want the extra years for Gabe and Rui from Atlanta.
Right. And Gabe and Rui have played really well over the last few weeks to the point where I think the Lakers are probably saying, let's stick now that we're finding some synergy here. Let's just keep this group.
Yeah. Now if you're putting them in a deal for like a big time player, sure. Then that's different, right? That completely changes the math.
Is Marcus Smart a Grizzly past the deadline? So there's been some talk about maybe Marcus Smart could be available, a player that Memphis Grizzlies could be looking to move on from. We've talked about him in relation to maybe a Jimmy Butler trade, maybe a Brandon Ingram trade, something like that. I think that's the kind of thing that it would take. It would take there being something out there where clearly the Grizzlies are getting an upgrade. I think specifically on the wing is where they should be looking here with Smart.
100%. Yeah, it makes about $20 million this season, I think, off the top of my head. So, yeah, I mean, that's it, right? Try to, and the other thing is, too, what you always want to have is tradable salary for guys who aren't in your rotation. It's not that Marcus Smart isn't a rotation player, but he's been hurt so much. So you would be trading him without necessarily losing any current production.
You're adding and not taking away from your roster.
Exactly. Yep. So you would be, yeah, maybe long term, you're like, I don't know if Scottie Pippen Jr. will hold up as the backup point guard in the postseason. And that's a fair question. But yeah, I think you would be, a little more open to that kind of idea.
Okay. This is a question we get all the time, Keith.
Yeah.
I didn't know we were able to trade injured players. It's only on 2K that you can't trade injured players.
That's
in
not
the
a real
NBA,
thing.
you can trade injured players all you want.
Yep. Yeah, that's why I started, just because we get that question all the time.
Yeah.
That's a 2K thing that's broken people.
And let's be real. One of the things that I try to preach this time of year is patience, because you get the people that are like the diehard NBA fans, right? That are it's August 20th and you're watching the show.
Yeah.
Those are like the diehards, like you are locked in on this league and everything. And then I see people that come up in the chat, people that come up in conversation on social media and stuff that ask questions like that. And the diehards get upset and frustrated and everything. And I'm like, no, look, that's okay. That's fans that are not paying attention to the league the entire year round. I'm not saying that's necessarily the case with this person, but this time of year, we get a lot more questions coming in. And a lot of times it's people asking stuff that maybe the diehard fans are locked in on and already know that stuff. But it's because you get more people checking in this time of year, and it creates even more interest in the sport. It creates more excitement and all that. So I don't get upset when people ask questions that maybe the diehards might already know. And I do see some frustration pop up out there every now and then. Just enjoy it. Enjoy this time of year. It's fun, and don't get mad at people for asking questions.
I try to have a ton of patience with folks now, because I just don't. There's not. Especially when it's rules-based stuff. This stuff is complicated. Some of it only comes up once or twice a year, and it is what it is. Here, there was something that just scrolled by pretty quick. NMS says, can't believe people aren't trading away everything to get into the Cooper Flag sweepstakes. Well, you don't really have to anymore.
Yeah, we kind of know what
lottery odds mean you don't have to race all the way to the bottom. You can just kind of be bad without having to bottom it all out. I mean, Washington's already got a pretty good lead on teams there with that, and then you've got everybody else. Like, why do they need to be any worse than they already are? They're already
I mean, look at what happened with the Pistons, right?
Yeah,
they have the worst record. Don't get number one. You have the worst record. You only get a 14% chance at the number one pick. So it's not.
So that's why you don't need to bottom out. It's more. What's more interesting is Washington, Utah, New Orleans, Charlotte less so, Toronto maybe you put in there, Brooklyn. It's less about the trying to be bad because they're already bad. It's more about, why are you not trading some guys to add to your asset pool? And that's, again, we got 23 and a half hours to go before all is said and done, and we may still see some guys move from those teams. And some teams are looking at it in an environment where the majority of the league is capped out. It may be better for Washington to say, you know what, we'll hang on to Malcolm Brogdon because we can always use him in a sign and trade in the offseason than it is to just trade him for a second round pick. We might be able to put him in a sign and trade, eat a bad contract from another team, and get a first round pick out of it, because that's, now we traded him and we got ate a bad contract. So that's where you got to be a little bit careful with your balancing, especially with bad teams, because there's, it's sometimes it is a little bit better to hang on to a guy's bird rights and use them that way.
So Keith, we do have an update coming out of the Phoenix market. John Gambadoro just tweeted, here's the latest. He said, it's highly unlikely now that the Suns will trade Kevin Durant to Golden State. KD does not want to play for the Warriors and he wants to stay in Phoenix. The trade had a lot of momentum in the last 24 hours, but that is now lost. He also said, I had ruled out Miami when Golden State was in the picture, but I now take that back. Can't rule out Miami. Still think very hard to do and wouldn't count on it, but can't rule out the Heat.
Yeah.
There you go.
So, and then Chris Haynes kind of added to that. Kevin Durant doesn't have a no trade clause, but the Golden State Warriors do not want to bring in a disgruntled superstar. An organization desperate to pair Stephen Curry with a peer of his caliber is running out of options. So, that's, I mean, again, we got 23 hours to go. Maybe that comes back around. The only thing I can make sense of why would the Suns trade Kevin Durant to get Jimmy Butler, like whether it's direct to Miami to another team, is if the Suns have a sense KD is going to be the next one as soon as this summer to say, I don't want to be here anymore. Then maybe they're like, let's get out in front of it and move on from him now and go where we do it. And we'll get Jimmy Butler, who, he's not KD, but still a pretty good player. And we can kind of go from there. So,
yeah, KD $54 million next season and then a free agent after that. So he would have some power to actually quite a bit of power to influence his landing spot this summer, and also extension eligible. So again, similar to some of the other topics we've discussed.
Yep.
If he doesn't sign that extension, that's that. Oh boy, Bradley Beal is extension eligible, Keith.
Yeah. Guess what? Because he has a no trade clause right now, he could actually keep it if he did an extension. So something tells me that's not
happening.
Plays out.
Any truth to the Lakers being interested in Cody Martin?
A lot of teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one where Cleveland a second. That probably works for the for the Hornets. They maybe 2 seconds. Might get that done more there. So we'll see with that one. But I don't know, man. It's crazy. And this is where kind of what happens. Just we could close out with this because we both got other things to do and probably be back at some point. I feel like later today. At this point for teams and the trade deadline process, this is like the reset moment now, where what you see is, okay, what went down? Stuff went down this morning, the Middleton trade, all that. Until trades are official, there's always the chance of, hey, can we slide in there and actually help with that, and go? That is a thing that, sometimes happens at this point. And then it is, all right, let's reset. Then we go to work again tonight. Maybe you get close tonight, and then let's finish it off in the morning. And that's kind of where it goes. So generally, we might see another move or two tonight. Then it'll go quiet again. We might see a couple trades kind of early-ish tomorrow, like pre-lunchtime on the East Coast trades. Then it tends to go quiet for a little bit because that's when it's really working. And then they move forward with that there. So we're just in a spot where it is going to be there. So, did we miss it? Somebody saying we missed the super chat.
We missed a bunch.
Oh, did we? Oh,
yeah.
If you want to knock them out, we can. If you want to zip the room.
Yeah, let's just go rapid fire here through them. Let's see.
So Kevin Brown's got one here. Can the Lakers retroactively remove the pick to reclaim their 2027 second? If so, could they do it they can't just remove it. They'd have to do a subsequent deal. If you want to amend protections, you have to do another deal with the team. So that could be part of the deal there. Yep.
All right, let's go here. Dalton, Christian Wood, Reddish for Drummond and Gordon, and then sign Craig. The Lakers wouldn't give up Dalton Connect for that.
No, that's too much.
How should the Lakers approach building a roster with Luka post LeBron era? It's your birthday. Happy birthday.
Hey, happy birthday.
JJ. Happy birthday. It's very, very simple. Luka, same idea as LeBron. Surround him with defenders that can shoot. A lob catching big is ideal, but 3 and D all around these kind of guys, and let them do their thing. That's going to be the plan, I believe. Yep. Kyle said, I don't really want to trade Gabe Rui-Austin. Can we get a rookie big on a $2 to $5 million contract for Connect and an unprotected pick and swaps? A rookie big,
that's
depends.
Walker Kessler.
That's what they would be trying to get for Walker, trying to offer for Walker Kessler. Are there other rookie bigs? It depends. Like, is Memphis eager to give up Zach Edey or something? Not that the salary works or anything, but like a lot of teams that have rookie bigs right now that are of any interest, those teams are going to want to hang on to those guys. Kellel Ware, like Miami's found something with him. So that's it's tough to go get a rookie big unless they're really struggling with the team they're on.
Yep.
Let's go here. Best way to get Dayron and Jonas. It would be a Maxi Kleba deal for Jonas, and then Dayron, you could stack up a couple of minimum contracts, and there you go.
Yep.
Flipping Kleba and a second for Jalen Smith.
Yeah, that probably depends on what the Bulls are doing. Let's see, where they go.
Here's an interesting one.
This is
contracts be dead this summer after we saw the Knicks do the minimum plus $1, so they would avoid the rule that ahead of December 15th you can't stack minimum salaries. Is everybody just going to sign every contract for that now so that you don't fall into that rule?
Yeah, so you can't. The only reason the Knicks were able to do that is they were re-signing those guys. So for them, they used a combination of, I think they actually used all of non-bird, early bird, and bird rights to do that with those. But if let's say you're the Phoenix Suns, for example, and you are way over the cap and you are trying to get a minimum guy, if their contract is not a true minimum, you can't sign them using the minimum exception.
Correct.
Then the only way you can do that would be through another exception or through cap space or through having rights. So teams won't be able to do that. So yeah, it sounds crazy because it's $1, but this is when I go back to every dollar matters. Like with these things, you can't, dollars do matter.
Time Lord to Lakers and Magic. Go get Kobe White. Well, who's
great
going out?
Who's for both sides, but sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess.
Mitchell Robinson for Rui, 2 second-round picks. Well, actually, they only have 1 second-round pick to trade. But Keith, I don't like if
doesn't
I'm the
work
Knicks,
anyway. The Knicks can't do it. They couldn't take on that much more.
But even if you were able to, I mean, if I'm the Knicks, I'm just treating Mitchell Robinson as my trade deadline acquisition because they could use him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you definitely can. The only way I'm the Knicks is if I know like that he's gonna play 10 games and be out again.
Yeah, right.
That ankle shot, I'm out. Like then move him on. But yeah, sure. Yeah, it's not the worst idea, especially with the other injuries they've had up front.
Trade over under 17. I'm too low. Yeah, I mean, what are we at now? 10 trades?
What we're at. Yeah, Mark Stein's pretty good about tweeting it out, but I think he's been a little busy and lost. Yeah, we got to be at least 10, I think.
So yeah, we've got it's been a busy deadline so far. Thanks for your
one of the things we always do.
Draft.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
yeah. Oh, we appreciate that, man.
Yeah,
it's very sweet. One of the things we do on Spot Track, we always do a post at the end of the trade deadline. That is number of trades, number of players traded, number of picks traded. So that'll come out tomorrow afternoon, evening at some point. All right, we got one more. This will do it. So
Darren said, "I know the Spurs just got Fox. Do you think they should tank and get 2 shots at Cooper Flag with their pick and the Atlanta pick?"
I like that it says Atlantis.
Man, that'd be
a hell of a franchise.
That's the lost pick.
Yeah, that is. Yeah. I like that Disney movie, by the way. Movie,
it doesn't get a lot of credit,
I like team movies where like every person on the team has like a specific skill,
like Captain Planet.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, like the Avengers, right? That's probably why I like the Avengers so much. But yeah, to answer Darren's question, Spurs have already won too much to really put themselves in prime position for that. So yeah.
The Bulls looking to trade Zach Collins and Kevin Huerter and Trey Jones. All the guys they just got, they're looking to trade potentially.
Who is that?
Wendell Carter is not trade eligible this season.
Correct.
All right, everybody. I appreciate all of you. Thanks for coming in.
Hit that like button on your way out, please. Helps us out quite a bit if we can get those likes up on the show. And subscribe. Have you watched the Fantastic Four trailer?
Let's save that for some scheduled
Friday.
nonsense.
We'll do that on Friday.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. There's too much other stuff going on, but we'll react to it there because I actually do have strong thoughts.
We've got this one just came in. Josh said, "Why is no one discussing Nike's part in the trade? I guess they were just lucky to have a past exec before me go for the Mavs and move their best asset to the biggest market. What about Dwight? What, the relationship that Rob Pelinka had with Nico Harrison when he was an exec with Nike through Kobe and all that?
I mean, to move the best assets at Luka to the biggest market. I mean, I don't know. Luka was doing just fine in Dallas.
Yeah.
I think you hit a point where like the market stuff for the true super duper stars doesn't drive things
not like
away.
it used to be.
And guys, for the love of God, let the Dwight Howard thing go. Like he hasn't played in the league for like 4 years. Like it's over. It's done. Like that's like it is done. Like we just got to move on. Like, whatever.
I love it. All right. Thank you everybody for joining the show today. Oh, we'll be live tomorrow about an hour before the deadline. And if anything big happens, we'll be back on whenever that occurs.
All right.
So then, everybody, see ya and stay safe.